A soldier gets sent to war with every accessory he could ever need. Here's your look at the Diamond Select Marvel Select Captain America Collector's Edition action figure with accessories. During World War II, the frail but courageous Steve Rogers was injected with an experimental super soldier serum, emerging from the treatment as the pinnacle of human physical potential. Outfitted with a patriotic costume and an iconic shield, he became the legendary Captain America. Though frozen in ice for decades after the climactic battle, Cap re-emerged in modern times, continuing the battle against evil as the leader of the Avengers. This Marvel Select action figure of Captain America is based on his appearance in Marvel Comics. It includes interchangeable heads, hands, and accessories, and it features 16 points of articulation. The government may have made a perfect soldier, but if you ask me, Diamond's made a perfect figure. Just before, of course, we get a closer look at the Marvel Select Captain America, I'd like to thank the folks over at Diamond that did provide this sample we could have a look at. Captain America should be available right now either in comic book stores or online, depending on where you get your majority of your figures. The figure, though, of him stands almost exactly 7 inches. It's maybe just a hair bit taller than that, but we're going to stick with 7 for right now, or the figure's about 18 centimeters tall. I just used Reed Richards for an earlier review of size comparisons. We might as well bring him in now and compare him along with Cap. Size-wise, they're about the same. I mean, obviously, Captain America would be a bigger and more muscular character, but height-wise, they're almost identical. The really neat thing about this Captain America is that he has 3 different ways of being displayed. As he is right now, kind of more the 80s classic look to Cap, more so my favorite way of displaying the figure. What I really like about the way he looks right now is that he reminds me of the old Avengers video games, the stuff that I would play in the arcades. But if you would like to instead display him in an unmasked look, then the figure also comes included with just the Steve Rogers head sculpt. Portrait-wise, it's pretty good, except for, unfortunately, one little error here. Now, obviously, I would only just be pointing out the one that I have on mine, but can't help but obviously draw your attention to the fact he's got this gross, ugly little smear of paint just above his lip. If not for that, it's a pretty good-looking likeness to Steve Rogers and can then be swapped out with the existing one that we have right now. Now, you could choose for yourself to have the figure displayed with just the Steve Rogers, but if you wanted to, you can also as well give him the harness piece. This just basically fits over top of the back of his body, and he also comes included with a variation where you can also give him as well a different belt. The belt has various different pockets, molded very nicely here in brown plastic. This actually detaches, so instead of worrying that you'd have to slide this over top of his body or even just trying to detach the top from the bottom half, it's just a case of actually undoing this. You can see there's a clip right there, a little snap, and that plugs in place. There's a little hole on the bottom of one of the pockets, and just a clip in place like that. To get that look going, I guess what we could really do, though, is first pick up Captain America as he is right now, stock and out of the packaging, which, again, of the 3 looks is my favorite. I just love the way they've colored the front of his face there in the slightly darker coloring of the black. Of course, you got the very trademark AA there in the middle of his forehead. Nice overall sculpting of Captain America. It's, again, classic 80s Cap for me. Of course, he's got the little wings there off to the side there as well. He's got the ears sticking out. I always prefer more Captain America with his ears sticking out than what they did in the Avengers movie where they just encased his head in an entire helmet. I just thought it looked a little ridiculous. Of course, you got the nice paint there down below. We'll say one thing is that some of the paint isn't the cleanest. Like the star that he has on the front of his chest, I feel like there's a few little areas that they probably could have gone back and painted as second coat. You can see kind of a little bit of the blue plastic peeking through. The stripes on the side are pretty good. I don't really have too many problems with that. Even like the star on the back is a lot cleaner than it is on the front. And the striping all around the mid-torso of his area is handled pretty good as well. I don't know why he does have a hole on the back of his body. It serves really no purpose for Captain America. I'm sure they probably are using this mold for something other than Cap, where this probably, or may have used for an earlier Captain America that probably plugged onto a display stand of some sorts. It just doesn't serve a purpose here for this version of him. But again, overall, you got the Buccaneer boots down below. Those are nicely painted there as well. I've got a little bit of scuffing off to the side. I mean, I can chalk it up to the fact that the bottom of his feet clearly are dirtier, but a little bit of that has made its way onto the side of the sole. It's just something that's a little bit more noticeable. But paint is pretty clean. It's very nice and vibrant here on Captain America. Again, if you did want to change out the head, it's just a case of when you take the head, you have to make sure that the head and the neck are coming together. You just remove both of them together, and then you're going to take yourself the unmasked Steve Rogers head, and that's going to plug in place. And if you're having any problems doing this, I didn't really have any problems earlier, of course, now the camera's rolling. Just plug it in place. You can also just heat it up with a hairdryer, take a few passes, you should be good to go. Just don't like the fact it's got that little smudge right there. I mean, I'm not going to be displaying this Captain America with that anyways, but it always bums me out. You know, get a figure, then it's got a little bit of paint problems. I mean, it had to be of there, right? I mean, it couldn't have been anywhere else on the figure's body. It just had to be right there where it almost looks like just like a birthmark on Captain America. Again, nice looking head sculpt. Now, what we're also going to do, though, again, you could decide just to display the figure like this if you wanted to, but if to take the harness, you basically just bring the arms a little bit more close to his body, and then you just wrap them around on the one arm, get it around on the other, and then you literally just slide it up his forearms. I don't know really how often I'd really want to do this. My worry, though, is sliding up the harness the way that I am right now. It's going to start to scrape the paint, especially on the whites. That would be one area where I would imagine it would show up the most. But you just slide it over top of his arms, and you just basically have it harnessed around the side of his body like that. To complete the look, then, you can also take yourself the belt, just detach it, fit it around the front of his waist, and then on the back, you're just going to clip it in place. Now, you won't be able to see it. So you'll just have to kind of feel around until you get it in the right place. And now you got Captain America with his belt on. It's a nice look for him. I mean, not that I'm dismissing the fact that I just don't like this particular look for Captain America. I mean, for what it is from a sculpting standpoint, I really like how this is delivered. I prefer, really, if anything, to have the 80s Captain America more so. And again, you can also display the figure with the shield. The one thing, actually, I forgot to show you guys. We're just going to go ahead. He also comes with a curled back or folded back top of his cowl. And that just fits over top of the neck as well. We're just going to clip the head back in place. Now we have the way he's supposed to really look. We're just going to want to make sure it folds down all the way. I like the look of that. Now, again, you don't have to necessarily have the straps on the back of his body. Unfortunately, by the way I have it right now, it does leave a little gap space where obviously it doesn't look like it's a continuation of his costuming. The only other thing that I would just say is a little bit of a nitpick, but I mean, again, you could just choose for yourself just to leave the harness off altogether. And then obviously the top part of his cowl would sit a little bit more flush to his body. That's it. The figure, while you're also at it with the way he looks right now, does come included with his circular shield. Again, nicely painted. No real issues with the way they've painted it. On the back of it, of course, there is the straps that's going to fit around his hands. This is going to drape around his forearm. This is going to clip onto his hand. He has closed fists right now, which isn't really going to be helping us much of anything. But the figure also comes with other hands, too. He has some saluting hands. And these are all kind of really approached with a much more darker red than I was expecting. He also comes included with a pointing hand. Certainly, if he wants to lead the troops, that's a good hand to go with. And he also comes included with a couple of gripping hands. Now, for this, I find it's actually easier to clip this around the handle first. You just get the hands, fit them around there, and then you just push this back. Now, you have to kind of get it around the strap. Might be a little easier to do it this way. Oh, actually, no, it probably wasn't. Getting around his hand this way would just get the peg underneath. There we go. And just sort of have it already attached onto the shield. It saves you a lot less work to try to fit the hand already attached onto the forearm. It's just a lot easier doing it this way. So we're going to go ahead and remove the hand from the provided glove. Pop that off. Then we're going to take the hand, line up everything accordingly, and then we'll just plug it in place. I find, again, the easiest way to attach it onto the shield. Now, that's the circular shield. He does also have the more Golden Age shield that also goes really well with the alternate head sculpt, which is just down here. And just getting the figure to stand right now. The other thing he also comes included with is kind of more the classic look to Captain America, which is obviously a much different one than we get with the original starting figure head sculpt. It doesn't have like the bottom neck area, for example. It's done away with completely the black on the front, but it still keeps the familiar A. I like that this one also has a little smirk on his face, a little smile that works really well if you're going to be giving him the saluting hands. And again, if you want to change that one out, all this work of putting everything together, actually what we'll do is just detach the hand first. We want to make sure, because that's going to be something that's going to go onto the next shield. We're just going to detach this. From time to time, though, you might notice that some of the paint's going to be flaking off. I find the hand specifically, as I'm getting this, there we go, as I'm trying to get this around the handle, some of the paint just has flaked off on my fingers. No biggie, no big deal. By the way, the shield also does rotate. I just feel the need to also point that out to you guys as well. But again, like this shield works basically the same way. It also does rotate. So if you want to attach it onto his arm this way, you can then just twist the shield around. It works a little bit better for this to kind of drive home the idea of why I even had to rotate in the first place. I mean, being a circular shield, no matter how you rotate it, it's going to look exactly the same. This just detaches, by the way. By the way, it's also a little bit easier too. If you find you're having a harder time to kind of get this around the straps, just detach this part of the shield and just put it around the straps that way. But what we're going to do is we're going to take off Cap's head. The only problem with this one is that I've noticed of all the heads, this one's the one that seems to want to detach away from the neck easily. Or, I mean, all the other heads, basically when you do take off one, the neck goes along with it. But we're also going to go ahead, let's just bring back the arms, drop down the straps on the back of his body. Again, I don't know how often I really do want to do this, just with the worry that I feel I'm going to have of scraping the white paint. But again, we're just going to drop it down his gloves, slide it off completely. This might be, by the way, the last time I'm going to be doing this. Just plan to put Captain America on the shelf just in his 80s look instead. And then we're just going to detach the back of his belt. And we're going to slide the pocketed belt completely off the figure's body. Then we're going to go back to his golden age or classic look to his head sculpt. And that's going to just go onto the ball joint. The only thing about that is just be careful you don't put pressure against the side wings that he has. You just don't want to break those off. But just going to pop that in place. And then we're going to go ahead and get back going with the shield here. Just get the figure here to stand. Grab the shield. Grab the hand, of course. Well, we need the hand as well for this. And we're just going to clip the hand, as we did before, just around the handle area there. Get it underneath the strap. The strap is always like kind of the hardest thing to get it around. And then we're just going to fit this back onto his forearm. And now Captain America has the classic shield as well. While I wouldn't be as interested, I would say, to have the figure displayed with the unmasked, Steve head, I think I would rather probably get this guy a second time to have one displayed in his kind of, I say 80s, but kind of more the classic look to Cap, and also one in the vintage look, because I think both head sculpts are really good. And Ash also too. I really would hate to think that I'm going to have to put the shield back with all the other accessories. I really like the look of that shield also as well. Now, also too, seeing as we already did, I was mentioning saluting earlier, let's grab the saluting hand. It's a very easy case of just popping off the hand from the provided peg. And because, again, like the figure does have a double hinge on his elbow, yes, you can get yourself a saluting Captain America. So let's look at the figure's articulation now. For all that, we're going to have to remove the shield anyways. And just, again, we're going to detach it. Maybe what we'll do is we'll just put on a regular hand, just so I don't have to worry about fighting with the one that I have. There we go. We're just going to grab the closed fist. Closed fist will just plug back in place. Getting, though, a closer look at Captain America's articulation, whether you decide you want to use this head sculpt, whether you want to use the Steve Rogers head, or you want to use the head that we started the review with, it's all going to work the same. So he has a ball joint that's going to be on the head, and that's going to attach to the neck. But then the neck also has a secondary ball joint, so it can move up and down, back and forth. And then the head itself can also do the exact same. So there's a good range of motion with both the head and the neck working collectively. Upper torso is going to be on a ball joint. It doesn't move as freely back, though, but it does move. It gives you a little bit of a forward crunch. You can also rock it back and forth slightly. And, of course, you can also rotate it. In addition to the rotation here, there's also a rotation here at the bottom of his abdomen, right where it attaches to the waist. The arms hinge out easily at 90 degrees, so there are no problems there. You can take the arms and rotate them all the way around, and that's the same on this side, obviously. Here's a swivel at the bicep. Just by the way, quickly looking at this, there's one other thing I would want to point out to you guys, is that the way they've transitioned some of the blue into the white, while I did say it was pretty clean on the outside, there are a few little areas, at least on mine, where there's a little bit of the bleed of the blue. It's not enough that it's going to ruin the figure, but just something I noticed, like, it's always a hard thing to take one color, especially darker, and have it very sharply cut off and then have white below it. There's always a section, and this just happens to be the section right here, where there's a little bit of a bleed of blue. Other than that, like I said, the paint's pretty good, other than maybe just the working of the star. Swivel low at the bicep. The figure does have a double hinge on the elbow, and the hands do rotate all the way around. As for Steve's legs, they are on hinge joints. There's a ball joint actually working inside the thigh there. You can take the legs and move forward, move them back. There's a swivel at the top of the thigh. I did notice, though, on this leg, it's a little on the more looser side. This leg here actually isn't bad at all. Leg also hinges outward also. The figure does have a double hinge on the knee. Articulation also in the boot, which is good to see. Ankle pivot back and forth, and also an ankle rocker. I love Captain America, but, to be all honest, I don't have a lot of Captain America figures in my collection. There were a few Marvel Legends I had a long time ago, like years ago, and I've just parted ways with a lot of my Marvel Legends figures. I'm glad that I'm sure we have gotten a couple of Caps before in Marvel Select, but I really like the look of this one. The thing I'm almost more torn on is how I want to really have the figure displayed. We started the review, I feel, with the better of the three looks, but we're kind of wrapping up the review in also a very cool looking look as well, that I might just be tempted to get myself a second Cap. While I do, again, I'm disappointed that the Steve Rogers, at least on mine, had a little bit of a paint. It looks like a birthmark. It looks like a birthmark or a mole. It just happens to be above his lip. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to be displaying the figure with its head sculpt anyway, so it's no real harm, no real foul. At the end of it, I'm either going to be displaying the figure in his 80s look or displaying him as you're seeing right now. I often do get asked, how come I don't look at more Marvel Legends here on this channel? And the thing about it, honestly, is first of all, Marvel Legends is expensive. I mean, if you look at the price of what those things are selling for, and considering that they just use the bodies again and again, they should be a lot cheaper than what you're getting with Marvel Select. I mean, Diamond Select, when they're producing their Marvel figures, you can have a Captain America that's going for the same price as a Juggernaut. I mean, those figures should all be different varying prices, and yet Diamond kind of caps things off, no pun intended, with all basically the same price across the board. Now, when it comes to Captain America, even though I'm sure this body has been used probably before and will be used again, it's likely going to be used for another Captain America. It's not going to be used for like a figure of this same size. Captain America has a very unique shaped body to him. Overly muscular, a little tapered off in the waist, that it's not just a body that you can just replicate and carry over for another character. Diamond knows that, so when they get to releasing a new Marvel Select figure of at least a Captain America, you know it's not a figure that we've just gotten countless times before. Speaking of countless times before, I don't have really a lot of other Captain America figures from Marvel Select, but this might just be my go-to Cap moving forward. Though it's not going to be the look that you're seeing right now in Final Looks, I do prefer of all the three looks that he has, the more 80s look that has the shadowing on the front of his face and the circular shield. Though this one is my second favorite, and might be even tempted to get a second one of these so I can have both looks on the shelf. Yes, I am still a bit bummed that there was that smudging of paint on the top of the lip for Steve Rogers, but honestly, I mean, I'm never going to display the figure with that head sculpt anyways. It's going to go back in the bag with the harness, it's going to go back in the bag with the belt, and it's going to go back in the bag with all the other hands I'm not currently using. What do you guys think of the Marvel Select Captain America? Let me know down below in the comments section. And of the three looks that he has, the unmasked portrait, the more vintage look that we're looking at right now, or the more 80s look for Cap, which way would you end up displaying the figure in? Also, a big thank you once again to the folks over at Diamond Select that did provide this sample of the Marvel Select Captain America that we could have a look in this review. The figure, as of right now, is available in either comic book stores or online. So if you guys are interested to get this one for yourself, he should be available as of right now. If you guys, in the meantime, did like this video, why not throw it a like? If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and want to stick around for more, we may be wrapping up things right now for our Captain America, but we will be looking at some more Diamond Select reviews in the pipeline. In the meantime, if you want to check out the other things I've looked at for Diamond in the past, popping up in either corner will be also, first of all, a Marvel Select reviews playlist, but also in the opposite corner will be all the things I looked at in Diamond for Diamond Select in the past. So feel free to check out those playlists if you have a little bit of time on your hands. And of course, as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.